Okay, hi everyone. Hope everyone's having a wonderful afternoon. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to Bournemouth University for inviting me to host this webinar on Access Tier 5. A little bit about me before I actually start the session. Like most of you guys over here, I was an international student about 12 years ago. And I came from India to study in the UK with hopes and dreams of making it big here. And I have to say that 2 years ago, I got my indefinite leave to remain, and I did not have to get married to a British or European citizen for that. So, so that's a little story from you. And I think that's why I set up Access TA 5-6 years ago, because I've been through the struggles that you guys are going through. You know, I've been in your shoes. I understand how important it is to stay in the UK and gain that ever so valuable UK experience. And then perhaps, you know, the world's your oyster, whether you want to stay here in the UK or whether you want to go back to your home countries or anywhere else in the world. So that's just a little tidbit about me. I am going to start off with the presentation now. So when it comes to immigration tiers, there are 5 different tiers within the immigration rules. So there's tier 1, there's tier 2, tier 3 doesn't technically exist. There's tier 4, which is what you guys would be on, the student visa, and then there is tier 5. Now, within tier 5 itself as well, there are about 5 subcategories. And the category that we're going to be talking about today is called GAE. So that's Government Authorized Exchange. Now, before I actually start my presentation and talk about what tier 5 is and what you can do with it, I kind of want to set out the differences between tier 2 and tier 5. I do these sessions quite a lot, so kind of anticipate the questions that would be thrown at me. And I just want to send out the differences between both the 2 routes. Now, tier 2 is a route which is for skilled migrants who want to stay in the UK for a long period of time, for let's say at least over 2 years. Whereas tier 5, you can only use for internships, placements, work experience programs that last as little as 1 month and a maximum of 12 months. After the 12 months, you cannot switch into any other visa category. You have to go back to your home country, but you can apply for a second 12-month visa. You will never get a 24-month visa under tier 5 GAE visa route, but you do have the option of applying 2 12-month visa. So that's the first difference. The second thing is, under tier 2, you can only approach employers who have a right to sponsor you, which means they must have a tier 2 sponsorship license approved by Home Office if they want to sponsor you. But under tier 5, the beauty about this program is that you can approach any employer, irrespective of their size, irrespective of whether they have a sponsorship license or not, because under tier 5, we will be your sponsor. So at the moment, under tier 4, the university is your sponsor. They take all the risk and responsibility of sponsoring you. Under tier 5, it will be us, not your employer. So what that I'm trying to say is that it makes it a lot easier for you to approach employers, because you're not putting them off if they don't have a tier 2 sponsorship license by saying you need to go apply for a sponsorship license. They don't need to have any sponsorship license if you're looking to apply for a visa under tier 5. The third thing is that tier 5 is only used for temporary positions. So as I said in the beginning, it's only for internships, placements, or work experience programs lasting about a minimum of 1 month and a maximum of 12 to 24 months. Whereas under tier 2, you can apply for up to even 5 years. Finally, I don't know if you guys know what NVQ level stands for. NVQ is National Vocational Qualification. So let me explain that a little bit. So each job that's available within the UK labor market has a skill level attached to it. So let's say a doctor's skill level, of course, is a higher skill level rather than, let's say, someone who was working as an office manager or an office assistant. Because if I wanted to become an office manager or an office assistant, yes, I can apply for that job today, because I don't necessarily need to have very, like skills that I need to study or anything like that. But if I wanted to become a doctor, I just can't become a doctor overnight, can I? So a skill level for a doctor will be much higher than the skill level that of an office assistant or an admin worker. So each job level that is available within the UK labour market has a skill level attached to it. I'll get to the point in a minute. So if you're applying for a Tier 5 visa, you need to find a job that has a skill level of NVQ level 3 or above, which is a lower skilled level. Whereas if you're looking to apply for a job under Tier 2, then you need to apply for jobs that are NVQ level 6. So there is a difference between, that's why Tier 2 is for more skilled migrants, whereas Tier 5 is for lower skilled migrants. Now, if you want to know how do you find out which job level is at what NVQ level, then you can Google what is called SOC codes, Sierra Oscar Charlie codes. Now, if you Google this document, it has a comprehensive list of every single job that's available within the UK labor market. And you can just search for the position within that PDF document and find out whether or not your skill level is NVQ level 3 or above, or is it NVQ level 6. So those are some of the differences between Tier 2 and Tier 5. Now I will actually start with my presentation. Okay. So the Tier 5 government authorized exchange visa route was set up in the year 2008 when the points-based system was introduced, and it allows international graduates, recent graduates, and international students studying to the UK to come over to the UK and experience best practice, working environment, and also the social life within the UK. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to move this here so I can see my slides. Okay, so Access Tier 5, the scheme that I run and I set up 6 years ago, is a government authorized exchange visa route which allows specifically graduates and postgraduates from the countries outside of the EU, EEA region to gain working experience within the UK for as little as 4 weeks and a maximum of 12 to 24 months. It gives UK employers an opportunity to hire the best and the brightest talent from overseas on key initiatives to learn key skills. One thing I'd like to point out here, this visa scheme is not just for graduates who are studying in the UK. If you have brothers, sisters, cousins, family members, they're studying in their home countries, if they get an internship offer, they too can apply for this Tier 5 visa scheme. So this is not just for international students who are here in the UK. In contrast to Tier 2, which requires the employer to directly sponsor migrant workers, under Tier 5, this is not the case because under Tier 5, we will be your sponsor. So I covered this point initially when I was talking about the differences, so I'm not going to go in further details. Instead, the sponsor has to be an overarching body. This is where we, ISEC UK, the scheme that we run, Access Tier 5, we play a vital role as we have the Tier 5 license in order to be able to issue what is called certificates of sponsorships and are registered as an overarching body to manage this program on behalf of UK Home Office. So those of you who don't know what a certificate of sponsorship is, it's nothing but a 13-digit number. When you applied for your Tier 4 visa, you must have been issued by a CAS number, a CAS number. Similarly, we issue what is called a COS number, and this number essentially tells Home Office that we are your sponsor. We take all the risk and responsibility of sponsoring you while you're here under Tier 5 GAE visa route. So this is where I say that we are taking all that risk and responsibility, not your employer. Okay, I will move on to the next slide. So who do we work with? We work with students and recent graduates who are here on a Tier 4 visa, and we help them switch from Tier 4 to Tier 5 as long as they fulfill our scheme requirements and, of course, the Home Office's criteria. So the next point you might want to make a note of, because these are the two things that you must meet in order to be able to switch from Tier 4 to Tier 5. Actually, before I get into that, let me just explain what switching means. So switching means when you're changing visa categories from one visa category to the other visa category without leaving the UK. So if you were to change from Tier 4 to Tier 5 while you're here in the UK, that's called a switch. If you went back to your home country and you applied for Tier 5 visa from there, that's not called a switch. That's called a fresh entry clearance application. But if you're staying in the UK and you want to apply for a Tier 5 visa, then you must fulfill 2 points. Now, the first thing is that you must have successfully completed your degree course that you're studying here in the UK and provide evidence of that. What that means is that when you're looking to apply for a Tier 5 visa, there should be evidence such as either a degree certificate or a transcript or a statement of award from the university you're studying at, which says that yes, you've completed the course successfully and you're waiting for maybe the degree to be awarded or the transcript to be awarded. Because what happens is students will usually finish their course, let's say June, July, I think it is, and then you have to wait a few months before you get the degree. So what it means that you can actually start the process as soon as you finish your education, even if you haven't been awarded a degree. But as long as you can get a letter from the university just confirming that yes, you've successfully completed your course and you're simply waiting for the degree. So that's point one. The second point is, in order to be able to switch, is that you must find a role that is directly related to what you studied most recently in the UK. So that means, let's say I am doing a master's in marketing, and I found a role, say, in public relations. Now, marketing and public relations, there is some sort of relationship between the two, but they're not directly related. So I will not be allowed to switch in country, which means I will not be allowed to apply for a Tier 5 visa from within the UK. If I want to apply for a Tier 5 visa from within the UK and I want to switch from Tier 4 to Tier 5, then I have to find a role which is directly related. So if I found a job within marketing and I studied marketing, then yes, that's absolutely fine. I can apply for the visa from within the UK. But what happens, like I said, if I found a job in PR and I did a master's in marketing, then do I not apply for a visa? No, that's not correct. I can still apply for the Tier 5 visa. The only difference is that I will have to go back to my home country and apply for a Tier 5 visa. And actually, there is a little bit of benefit if you want to apply for the visa from your home country, and that is in terms of the processing times. So if you apply for a Tier 5 visa and if you apply to switch within the UK, and if you apply via the postal route, it can take up to between 5 to 8 weeks to get the visa from home office, which is quite a long time. But if you decided to go back to your home country and apply for the visa from there, it would take about 10 to 15 days. So depending on how urgent this is for you, you can, and as long as you meet the eligibility criteria, then you can decide whether you want to apply for the Tier 4 visa from within, Tier 5 visa from within the UK, or whether you want to go back to your home country and apply from there. I usually get questions at this point, but I will wait to answer all your questions towards the end. Okay, so we also work with students and recent graduates who are not studying in the UK, but have arranged a placement or an internship with a UK employer. So as I said earlier, if you have brothers, sisters, cousins, any family members who studied outside of the UK, but as long as they find an internship which meets our eligibility criteria, then they too will be able to apply for a Tier 5 visa from their home country. Finally, we also work directly with employers. We will work with their immigration advisors, their lawyers, career advisors, anyone who wishes to use our services, and we will help them to, help them sponsor the migrant that the employers want to bring over to the UK. Now, this next slide, I want to show you some of the names of the employers that we work with. Before I show you that slide, I do want to say that the reason some of these names are there on this slide is because you will recognize these names. They are big brands, and everybody knows those names. This is not to say or discourage you in any way that we don't work with smaller employers or SMEs. That is not the case. The only reason these names are there is because you will recognize these brand names. So I'm just moving on to the next slide now. So some of our biggest clients are like Facebook, Google, Manchester City, Manchester United, Sony, Science Museum, Boeing, Crabtree Evelyn. We work with a lot of think tanks like Institute of Economic Affairs, Chatham House, Adam Smith Institute, JP Morgan, PwC, fashion houses like Burberry, Alexander McQueen, Ford, Prism. So we have a big list of clients. I think we have about, I'm inclined to say about 760 different clients that we work with. But I will repeat again that don't get discouraged that we will not work with a smaller employer. We will. The reason these brands are here on this slide is because you recognize practically all of them. So moving on to the next slide. This is the point you might want to make notes and probably pay most attention, because this is the eligibility criteria. So first things first, the maximum term of the placement is 12 months at a time. So the minimum length is 4 weeks. The maximum is 12 months. After the 12 months, you have to go back to your home country. You cannot switch into any other visa category. But yes, if your employer wants to bring you in for another 12 months or another internship, then you can apply for a 12-month, another second 12-month visa from your home country. But that's the maximum time you can spend under Tier 5 is 2 periods of 12 months. The minimum qualification of the candidate is that of an undergraduate enrolled at a NARIC listed institution. You guys don't need to worry about this. Bournemouth University is NARIC listed, and I'm guessing you're all studying either towards a graduate or a postgraduate course, so don't worry about point 2. The candidate must have completed their last education no more than 3 years ago. So this is very important. Now, you only have 3 years to take advantage of this program from the day you graduate. So if you're graduating this year in September 2018, you will only be able to apply for the Tier 5 visa program till September 2021. If it was even a day more than the day you graduated, I'm afraid you will not be eligible. So just bear that in mind, that you have only 3 years to be able to take advantage of this visa scheme. The placement position that's offered to you must be supernumerary. What that means is that it should be outside of the regular staffing requirements of the company. So let's say it takes 5 people to run a business successfully, right? Now, a supernumerary position would be a 6th position that is created not for the benefit of the company, but for your benefit. And that's why under Tier 5, the role that's offered to you must be temporary. So it shouldn't last longer than 12 months. And it should be like a learning program, so a work experience or a placement or an internship. It cannot be a permanent position. If you were offered a permanent position that is required for a business to be able to sustain itself, that would not fit under Tier 5. You'd have to approach the employer for Tier 2. So that's something very important to remember when you're approaching employers. Please do not ask them for permanent jobs, ask them for internships or placements, because only internships and placements will fit under the Tier 5 GAE visa route. The placement should be a full-time placement, so we do not accept part-time roles. If you want us to sponsor you, you need to work a minimum of 35 hours per week and a maximum of 48 hours per week. Also, we do not support unpaid or voluntary internships, so you have to be paid at least 15,000 per annum if the job is based in London. If it's outside of London, then national minimum wage will suffice. Having said that, the national minimum wage has gone up in April. So if the job was based in London, you were more likely to be paid £15,246.60 for 35 hours per week. I'm guessing everyone's above 18 here, so I don't need to elaborate on this point. So I'll move on to the next one. Okay, any work that the candidate undertakes must be of a skill level of NVQ, NQF level 3 or above. I talked about this initially when stating the differences between Tier 2 and Tier 5. So you can go on to Google, look for SOC codes, and find out whatever job you're looking to apply, what skill level it is. As long as it's NVQ level 3 or above, then that should be fine. I have to say that most jobs that are offered to graduates and postgraduate students are usually NVQ level 4 and above, so I think you should be okay. But it always helps to just go on Google and see, let's say if you're looking for like a marketing internship would actually be an NVQ level 4. But just check before you apply whether the position is NVQ level 3 or not. The employer must have financial and personal resources to support the intern throughout the placement. So one of the things that we will do is when you apply for sponsorship, we will ask your employer to provide us a copy of maybe their bank statements or their latest accounts, because we want to make sure that they are in a financial and personal capacity to be able to support you throughout your internship. We are your sponsor, so it is our responsibility to make sure that you get paid on time, you're not taken advantage of, and that's one of the reasons why we ask the employers to provide us with any financial documents that they may have. So just forewarn your employer that that's something we will need to ask them. The employer must be a UK registered company, charity, government department, sole trader, LLP. As long as they're trading within the UK, that's absolutely fine. You can approach that employer. And I will reiterate again that they don't need to have any sponsorship license. They must just be trading within the UK. Now, there are 3 sectors that we don't sponsor within, which are hospitality, agriculture, and care. So if you find a role within hospitality, agriculture, or care, I'm afraid our scheme will not, you will not meet our scheme requirements. I would also like to point out that by care, I don't mean NHS. I don't mean healthcare as such. I just mean care, let's say working with disabilities, working with children, or elderly, that kind of care level. Outside of that, it's fine. We do work with NHS, so we sponsor interns for them. We also work with pharmacies, so we sponsor pre-reg pharmacy students as well. But by care, it's just limited to disabilities, children, and elderly. So this is pretty much the requirements of our scheme. As long as you meet these requirements, you'll be eligible for sponsorship. So the next slide I'm going to talk about is how does the program work. So first things first, you need to have an employer interested in offering you a position. We don't help you find a job. If you guys call me to say, help me find a job, I will put the phone down on you, because I speak to a lot of students every day, and I'm sorry, but we cannot help you find a job. So that's something you need to take help of your career advisors at the university, or do your own legwork for that. But you must have an employer who's willing to offer you an internship, or at least be interested in offering you a position. If the employer is interested and you need help convincing them to use Tier 5 visa program, at that point in time, you can get in touch with me or someone from my team, pre-book an appointment, and we'll be happy to speak to your employer and help them understand how the scheme works. So that's something we can do, but we cannot find an internship for you. Now, assuming you have an internship already, or an employer is interested, what you do is drop us a quick email introducing us to your employer. We will then send what is called our initial assessment form to your employer, and the list of documents that they need to provide. When they send us all these documents, we will take 1 working day to conduct the assessment and let you know whether it's yay or nay. So if you're eligible or you're not. If you're eligible, then we issue what is called our care letters, 1 for your employer to sign, 1 for you to sign. As soon as the employer has sent those care letters back, they've paid our fees. We will then issue the certificate of sponsorship in either 1 working day if the employer has chosen express route, or 5 working days if the employer has chosen standard route. And then once you've got the COS, you then apply for the visa yourself. We don't apply for the visa on your behalf. Again, that's something you have to do yourself, but we're here to guide you on the process. So if you have any questions, such as what documents I need to send to Home Office to apply for the visa, if I need to submit my BRP, what kind of photo do I need, we're here to give you that advice, but we will not submit the application on your behalf. So it's a very straightforward process. It doesn't take very long. As long as you meet the eligibility criteria, you will get the COS in either 1 or 5 working days, depending on the route that your employer has chosen. Now, coming on to the next slide, which is about our fees. So we don't charge any fees to the students that we sponsor. So our services are absolutely free for you. What that means, someone does need to pay our wages. So our fees are paid by your employers. So they must be willing to pay our fees, but you will not be charged for any work that we do for you. Let's say you just wanted to call us and have a quick chat about how Tier 5 works. Irrespective of whether you proceed with the inquiry or not, you will not be charged a penny. So all the students that we speak to, we give immigration advice to, we don't charge them any fees. But yes, if the employer chooses to use our sponsorship services to in order for us to be able to sponsor you, then they would be liable to pay a fees. Now here are the fees. So there are two fees that we charge. First is the registration fee, which is only charged if the assessment is successful. Let's say you submitted an application, or your employer submitted an application on your behalf, and for some reason it wasn't successful because, let's say, the employer didn't have enough finances, or there was something wrong with the application. Irrespective of whatever work we do, your employer will not pay any fees till we can confirm to them, yes, we're happy to take the case on, we're happy to sponsor this individual for your company. So assuming it's successful, then the employer will pay a registration fee of £600 plus VAT for the first candidate. If the employer's already worked with us in the past, then they pay a reduced fee of £150 plus VAT. The second fee is what is called the cost of sponsorship fee, and that is based on the length of the sponsorship required. And for 12 months, that's £1,200 for express route of 1 working day. Or if the employer chooses standard route of 5 working days, then it's reduced to £750 plus VAT. Please note, both these fees must be paid by the employer. We will not accept any payments from the students that we sponsor. Now, you are required to pay some fees, and those fees are paid directly to Home Office. They are not our fees. Those are the visa fees and the immigration health surcharge. So the visa fee is now £244 if you apply via the postal route, where it will take 5 to 8 weeks to get a decision, or you can apply in person, and that's £845, and the decision on your application is usually made on the same day. You will also be required to pay the immigration health surcharge, which is set at £200 per year. You probably paid that this year as well, or last year as well when you came to the UK. So that you'll have to pay yearly, which is capped at £200 for immigration to be able to use the NHS services. So those are the fees. Just remember, the top of these fees, the registration and the cost of sponsorship fees, to be paid by the employer. The visa fee and the immigration health surcharge is to be paid by you. So what are the benefits of using Access Tier 5 for students? First of all, as I said, we don't charge any fees to the students that we sponsor. Our fees are paid by the employers, irrespective of whether you choose to use our sponsorship services or not. As I said, you can call us for any immigration-related advice. We have an immigration team in the office, and they'll be able to answer those queries for you, and there'll be no money charged to you at all. We are an A-rated sponsor, which means that we can certify the maintenance when we sponsor students under the Tier 5 GAE visa route. What that means, okay, so when you applied for a Tier 4 visa, your parents must have had to show bank statements, assets accounts to be able to prove to Home Office that they're in a financial capacity. Similarly, when you apply for a Tier 5 visa, the government or Home Office expects you to have £945 for a consecutive period of 90 days in your bank accounts. But here is the good news. Because we are an A-rated sponsor, you don't need to save this money, because when we issue you with a COS, we will also issue you with a document which is called a maintenance letter. As long as you include this maintenance letter in your visa application to Home Office, you don't need to save £945 for 90 days. You don't need to show any bank statements. Individuals in the UK can switch from Tier 4 to Tier 5 if they find a placement that meets our requirement. And the 2 points regarding that, I will reiterate again. First, you must have successfully completed your exams and your degree that you're here in the UK to study and provide evidence. And second, the role that you're offered must be directly related to what you've most recently studied. Sometimes I get a question, let's say I did a bachelor's in finance, but I've now done a master's in marketing, but I found a job with a bank in finance. So can I switch from Tier 4 to Tier 5? The answer to that is no. You have to find a job that's directly related to your most recent education. So if your most recent education is marketing, then you have to apply for a job within marketing if you want to apply for the visa from within the UK. If you did want to apply for a job within finance, then if it's not a problem, you have to go back to your home country and you can apply for the visa from there. There is no upper limit applied to the salaries that are offered. So some of our interns, let's say someone from like JP Morgan and Facebook, they will pay really high salaries to their interns. Some interns that we have in Glasgow that are working for mining engineering firms, their starting salaries are 95, 96,000 as well. So there is no upper limit threshold applied to tier 5. There is a lower limit, which is national minimum wage, which amounts to about £15,286.60 for 35 hours. So as long as you meet that requirement, you'll be able to apply for tier 5. Finally, this is the website, the government website, where you can go and find out more information on how tier 5 government authorized exchange visa route works. I'd like to point out that when a lot of the time when I speak to the employers, many of them will have not heard about tier 5. Some of them will ask me questions such as, is this program even legal? Why have I not heard about it? And if they ask you similar questions, please direct them to this website, because this is the government website. We are registered there as a sponsor, and you can direct them and say it's very legal. We sponsor about 600 international students each year, and we are an overarching body of Home Office. So this is pretty much it. Here are my contact details in case you wanted to get in touch with me. So it's my direct line number, my email. I'm also our website. I'm also quite active on social media. And occasionally, if any of my employers are interested in hiring any students and they let me know about the vacancy, then I will also tweet about this on my and Access Tier 5's Twitter account. So if you're following Access Tier 5 or myself, you may have, you may be able to find some jobs through that. But that doesn't happen very often. I have to say that it's only as and when one of my employers will get in touch with me. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this session useful and take this back with you. I guess we'll open up the room for any conversations and questions that you guys may have.
Okay, thank you so much, Zenia. That was really interesting. I have had a few questions come in, so I'm just going to look through some of them. Now, the first one here was just one right at the beginning, actually, that was just saying, I hadn't quite caught what you said about the website for checking the NVQ level. Could you please tell us again?
Yes, okay. So NVQ level is nothing but a skill level that's associated with any job that's available in the UK labour market. So going back to my original point, every job has some sort of skill. So, as I was saying, like an office assistant will have a lower skilled job than maybe that of a doctor or an engineer, because if I wanted to become an office assistant, that's an easy enough job for me to apply, but I cannot become a doctor because I need to have specialized education for that. So whatever job you're looking to apply, just make sure that it's NVQ level 3 or above. And the way you can find out is if you Google SOC codes, and that's, I think, about 97, 98 page document. Just search within that document whatever job position you're looking for, and you'll be able to see what is the NVQ level and QF level of that job.